This 6-year-old ran a marathon. People can't decide how they feel about it.
Why did you let your 6-year-old join you in the marathon?
That is just too young to run 26 miles.
Every 3 minutes, he cried.
Heat stroke,
Dehydration, exhaustion,
Could be dangerous. Nausea, vomiting.
or even worse.
Some kind of permanent damage.
If they thought that was controversial, they should hear about the 13-year-old that climbed Mount Everest.
He's not old enough to drive. He's not old enough to drink. Is he old
Place.
enough to be summiting Mount Everest? I mean, my 7-year-old wants to drive the family car. That doesn't mean I let him.
Or the kid that hiked the entire 2,200-mile Appalachian Trail before he even started kindergarten. We are going to investigate these kids' remarkable feats and decide if their accomplishments are actually a good thing or not. Before you decide, I personally know the 4th kid. You won't believe what happened to him. Starting with Rainier, the 6-year-old that ran the marathon. The Crawford family is known to do things out of the ordinary. In 2018, their family of 8, ranging from 16 to 2 years old, attempted to hike the entire 2,200-mile Appalachian Trail. They encountered numerous challenges, including harsh weather, illness, and even had to deal with child protective services. A concerned hiker had filed a report falsely claiming that their 2-year-old son, Rainier, was in critical condition, which led to authorities being called. After a brief investigation, child protective services determined that the children were not in danger and allowed the family to continue with their hike. Fast forward 4 years later, and the Crawford family found themselves in another controversial situation when little Rainier wanted to run his first marathon. As supportive parents, Ben and Cammie were there to support Rainier's dream. If you've ever ran a marathon, you know it isn't easy. And of course, Rainier had his low moments, just like everyone else out there. But as a family, they worked around Rainier to help him cross the finish line.
Seeing kids my age do things I never thought were possible was super inspirational.
I watched the Crawfords.
And I thought, wow, they can do it, I can do it.
It inspired me to begin walking more.
And I was inspired to run
My first 5K.
And several 10Ks and even my first half marathon.
Despite criticism, the Crawford family continues to push the limits of what's possible and is an inspiration to thousands of people around the world of what kids can do. After the struggles at the start of the Appalachian Trail, the family started to receive massive support from fellow hikers once the public realized that their kids were perfectly safe and they were loved by their parents. The Crawfords persevered, and after 2,200 miles of hiking together, they made history as the largest family to hike the entire trail. As a cherry on top, their 7-year-old daughter became the youngest female to ever hike the entire trail. Rainier ended up finishing that marathon along with his parents and siblings and quickly recovered and can be found still running happy and healthy. I don't know if I could say the same thing about the last kid on this list. If you thought a 6-year-old running a marathon was extreme, what do you think about a 13-year-old climbing the deadly Mount Everest? Jordan Romero became the youngest person to ever conquer the world's highest mountain. But is that title worth risking death? Braving the most violent and dangerous conditions on Earth, this 13-year-old stood on top of Mount Everest, an astounding feat that more than 300 other climbers have died attempting to achieve. You and millions of others might think that this is no place for a kid to be, but before you decide, you should hear the full story, which started when Jordan was in 4th grade and spotted a painting of the tallest mountain in all 7 continents, which he instantly knew he wanted to climb them all. So with his parents' support, they trained intensely to become the youngest American to stand on top of Africa, Australia, Europe, South America, North America, all before he turned 12. So when Jordan found himself at the base of Mount Everest, he wasn't showing up as a kid that was a complete newbie that was going to get himself and others in trouble. Instead, Jordan had more experience than most of the climbers on the mountain. He needed that extra experience with all the struggles the team faced with hurricane-force winds, collapsing ice falls, and the death of a fellow climber. Every step of the way, his father was there with him supporting and defending his son's dream. And they both stood on top of the world, setting the new world record of being the youngest person to summit Everest. A decade later, Jordan can still be found doing what he loves up in the mountains. While Jordan was climbing miles high, our next kid was hiking 2,200 miles across the country on the Appalachian Trail. Harvey, also known as Little Man, became the youngest kid to hike from Georgia to Maine alongside his mom and dad. Their journey was undoubtedly challenging, especially when they got hit by a snowstorm in the Smoky Mountains. I happened to be in the Smoky Mountains the same week and experienced the difficulty they were facing. Harvey and his parents persevered through the struggles and made it to Maine with thousands of stories they will remember forever. This extraordinary adventure has garnered praise from fellow hikers because they know it will shape Harvey's life forever to love the outdoors, which is a long-lost desire nowadays by so many kids. So what's stopping you from chasing the big dream of yours, whether it's hiking the Appalachian Trail or running a marathon or something else? If you notice a common theme throughout all these stories is all 3 of the kids had parents that were willing to support their kids' dreams no matter how big they might be. Most parents nowadays are pretty supportive when their kids say they want to play football, soccer, baseball, or some other traditional sport. But when a kid dreams of doing something out of the ordinary, the parents typically have a hard time accepting it, and they quickly encourage the kids to pursue more attainable goals and tell them that maybe one day when they get older, they can go run that marathon or climb the mountain or hike that trail. The unfortunate truth is when most kids grow up, they keep that mindset forever. Oh, I'll just chase that dream later. And they never get around to achieving what they really want until it's too late. So if you or your kids have a big dream that seems impossible, don't put that dream off on a shelf. Instead, take those small steps until you make that impossible dream possible. I've been hinting at this kid throughout the entire video, and I happen to be that last kid. I used to watch my dad compete in adventure races, which are basically extreme versions of triathlons, where you have to run, bike, and paddle with no marked courses all off-road. And that can last from anywhere from 4 hours to 12 days of non-stop racing. So at the age of 7, I asked my dad to let me join him for one of his races. He initially shut down the idea because at the time it was unheard of for a kid to participate in endurance sports. But after months of me begging, he realized that this was my dream and he wanted to support me, so we embarked on my first 6-hour adventure race. As I stood on the start line, the sight of a kid gearing up to take on the same challenges astounded the other racers. They were all adults, possibly challenging their limiting beliefs of what a kid could accomplish. Over the next 6 hours, my dad and I endured many struggles, of course, to reach the finish line, but we finished together. What we didn't realize was this father and son bonding experience would ignite a lifelong adventure racing journey and inspire a global movement, highlighting the potential of children when they set their minds to something. So with that said, I have a unique perspective on all these kids' stories, and even though it might take a decade until we see the side effects of Rainier's marathon in his body, we can easily use me as a case study. After 16 years of endurance racing as a kid, everything from running a 100-miler to adventure racing nonstop for 12 days, I've experienced 0 long-term injuries, and my blood work is great. I didn't stunt my growth, and most importantly, my bond with my father is unbreakable because of all the races we have done together. So I expect Rainier and Harvey to have a similar future to me, because we need more people to support young people's dreams so they can accomplish great things.